pitching matchup, give you our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Craig Stammen. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network, as today the Padres take on the Chicago Cubs in the second game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Cubs, left-hander Matthew Boyd, and for the Padres, right-hander, or I should say, left-hander, JP Sears. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. Off to a great start here today. First pitch coming up at 5:05 p.m. here on the West Coast as the Padres continue this road trip and this 3-game series at Wrigley Field. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen, today's starting pitcher JP Sears. We check in with Padres radio voice Jesse Agler in Chicago in just a little bit, and much, much more. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres enter today 43-40. Padres in the midst of a 7-game road trip to Chicago and LA. Padres entering the day 1 game out of the National League's final wild card spot. Cubs are 47-38. Cubs sitting tied for the NL's top wild card spot. We mentioned this yesterday. You can basically divide the Cubs season into 3 parts. Their first 39 games, they went 27-12, best record in the major leagues in that span. Their next 29 games, they went 7-22, the worst record in the major leagues in that span. And now they've won 13 of their last 17, the best record in the majors since June 11th. Padres have lost now 3 out of 4 to the Cubs so far this season. We had the series opener last night at Wrigley Field. Let's quickly rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Padres led 1-0 going to the 4th inning against left-hander Shota Imanaga. Xander Bogaerts dug in with a runner in scoring position for the Pods.
Bogaerts swings, hits it in the air down the left field line. That is a fair ball, and it's going to go into the corner. And Duhart trots home from third. France will be held at third. And Bogaerts into second with an RBI double. The Padre lead is now 2-0.
Cubs got a run against Griffin Canning in the 4th inning. They got another charge to Canning in the 5th inning. We still had a 2-2 game. In the 9th inning, Cubs getting 2 on base against Jason Adam. Craig Stammen went to Mason Miller to face Alex Bregman. Bregman singled to center. That loaded the bases with nobody out. Michael Busch dug in.
Busch swings, sends it in the air to left, not deep. Bowen in towards the line. He will make the catch. Swanson tagging on his way. Here comes the throw, the tag. He is meat at the plate, and a double play.
For the moment, the game was still tied, but the Cubs still had the winning run on third base for Seiya Suzuki.
Pitch swung on, hit in the air to left field and deep. Bowen's going back. He's on the warning track at the wall. He leaps up against the ivy. He had it and lost it, and the Cubs will win. Crow Armstrong comes in to score as Jace Bowen nearly made a magnificent catch up against the ivy and the bricks, but the ball got away, and with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning, Seiya Suzuki will win it for the Cubs.
Yeah, sort of a heartbreaking ending. Jace Bowen doing all he could by the ivy, but the ivy won, the ball landing in the ivy. Padres had 11 hits. They went 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position yesterday. Cubs went 3 for 13 with RISP. Padres also had to burn through their bullpen in a loss. Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam pitching more than an inning. As we said, they also had to use Mason Miller. And that was it yesterday. Final score, Cubs 3 and the Padres 2 in this series opener. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a variety of ways. You can find me on X at SammyLev, SammyLev. Instagram DMs open as well. Same handle there. If you want to let me know who you are, where you're tuned in from, and if you have a key to today's game, let me know what it is, and I may just read it live here on the air. Let's go out to the Windy City.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Jesse, before we get to the particulars of today's pitching matchup, a couple of southpaws going at it, let's talk about the Chicago Cubs in general, because it's been a bit of a fascinating season for the Cubbies. They started so hot, then they really struggled for about a month, and then the last 17 games or so, they're once again winning with a lot of regularity. What's the feel you have of this Cubs team? They are obviously a talented group, but it's been a very inconsistent group on the north side of Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, they are riding the kind of roller coaster that you don't often see. Usually you kind of get, peaks and valleys for teams.
Yeah.
Generally 500 teams, by the way. And then the peaks, are, I don't know, maybe 5, 7, max 10 game sort of periods of times. And you sort of ride it. It's like a little kid roller coaster, but it is, as I said to somebody outside a few minutes ago, it's like Six Flags Wrigleyville right now. I mean, it's just remarkable kind of considering the way it's gone. They had 2 10-game winning streaks and a 10-game losing streak before we even got to June. Then they had a 5-18. Now they've won 13 of 17. It's just kind of a volatility, the likes of which we've never really seen before, and hard to figure them out. I mean, if I'm going to step back and look at them, I think they're a really good team. I think they've just had a tremendous amount of injuries on the pitching front. I think they've got some offensive guys who are underperforming. Raise your hand if you're familiar with that. But over the long haul, do I think the Cubs are going to be better? I really do. I have a hard time imagining they're not going to be right there near the Brewers at least when it gets down to the end of September. And it's a team that if they're healthy and if those guys kind of start to hit the way the back of their baseball cards would indicate they should, couldn't be a very dangerous team come October.
Let's talk about today's pitching matchup and begin the conversation with the Padres left-hander JP Sears on the mound, about to make his second start for the Padres this season. Pretty similar spot to what we had in Atlanta last week, Jesse, in the sense that the Padres aren't just looking for effectiveness from JP Sears, but getting some length out of JP Sears on a day where the bullpen, I don't know if you want to say it's short, but it was certainly used heavily yesterday. The Padres could use both those things today, both effectiveness and length.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he gave us, I think, all we could have asked for in that game last Wednesday night against the Braves. If he can do something that looks like that, that would be outstanding. And as you and I have talked about, and as Tony and I have talked about, the reality is if you want to make it easier for these starters to go deeper into games, give them some run support.
Yeah.
He was pitching with, what was it, a 3-1 lead or a 3-0 lead when he came out of that game because he gave up a 2-run homer. Had the Padres had 5 runs on the board, they probably let him finish that inning when he gives up the 2-run homer. Very similar situation last night. Griffin Canning is out there. He's throwing the ball pretty well. But with 1 out in the 5th inning, you kind of feel like he's got to come out of that game because you have some really good bullpen arms, and it's a tight, low-scoring game. So one of the ways you can let some of these guys at the back end of the rotation work deeper into the game is by giving them some cushion. And if the Padre offense can maybe hop on Matthew Boyd, who's had yet another injury-plagued season here in 2026, that would be a way to do that. I know it's a lot easier said than done. I know it hasn't been a year of crooked numbers for the Padres, generally speaking, this year. But that would, I think, go a long way to helping JP Sears out here tonight and helping the Padre bullpen out here tonight.
And on the other side of the pitching matchup, left-hander Matthew Boyd on the mound for Chicago. And entering this season, Jesse, if you told the Padre fan Matthew Boyd was pitching against the Padres, they might say, uh-oh, because Boyd had typically been, as of late, pretty good against San Diego. But that was not the case in the first time he faced the Padres this season.
Yeah, they jumped on him. It was one of those early ambush jobs back in April, first game of the year between these two teams. They really worked him over in the first inning, and that was one of those innings, by the way, where they did come up with the big hit. It was Ty France.
Yeah.
A 2-run double, looked like it might be one of those innings where, oh, man, we're going to leave, a bunch of guys on base. We had traffic. We didn't really convert it, and then Ty came through with that 2-run double, to sort of turn a 1-run inning into a 3-run inning, and then they added on. But as you noted, they saw him 3 times last year, twice in the regular season, and then again in the wild card. He pitched really well all 3 times against the Padres. Last year, though, was really the first time he had been healthy all year since 2019. And he's already been on the IL twice this season for a couple of different things. Last start out for him was his first start back from the injured list. He only lasted, I think, 76 pitches. So he's still kind of feeling his way back here. I hesitate to say he's ripe for the picking. That might be overstating it a little bit. But this is not full strength, full go Matthew Boyd that maybe we saw in the playoffs a season ago.
Jesse, to squeeze in one more thing here, just because this is the only time we're going to talk to you this season, in the regular season at least, from Wrigley. I personally love the Ivy. I love everything that Wrigley Field includes. Now, we saw the Ivy have a big impact on yesterday's game. Maybe it affected Samad Taylor going back on that ball early. Certainly it played a role on the final play of the game. What's your take on the Ivy? I love the Ivy, but I was looking on social media yesterday, some people saying, why in 2026 do we have Ivy, and kind of the quirks of Wrigley Field? I don't know about you. I personally love the Ivy and the quirks of Wrigley.
It is one of the great bits of baseball that we have in the major leagues.
Yes.
And I couldn't disagree more with anybody who wants to get rid of it. And by the way, it's not going anywhere. So you're howling into the Wrigley Field wind, if you will, on that one. Look, one of the beauties of baseball, unlike all the other sports, is, every ballpark has its own personality and its own quirks and its own little differences. There are no standardized dimensions. There are no standardized backstops. They can be different materials that the ball bounces differently. The outfield walls have different heights and different lengths and different shapes and different sizes. And that makes learning to play those places different. And there is a home field advantage, right? Because Ian Happ in left field has a much better idea of what's going on out there than Samad Taylor does, who had played one game in his life out in left field at Wrigley before last night. And that's a home field advantage. Same for Fernando when he's playing right field at Petco, going out to the Petco porch. There's going to be a guy coming out there maybe for an American League team who's never done it before. He might go running face first into that thing, not realizing that it juts out like that or not having the experience to go out there and make a play. So, that's part of the beauty of baseball. I know for a time we had those cookie cutter stadiums, the multi-purpose stadiums that all kind of looked the same, but that's just sort of a blip on the radar in the history of Major League Baseball. I know some of the NHL rinks, Boston in particular, might have been a little bit smaller at times because of those buildings. But generally speaking, over the course of North American professional sports history, baseball has been the only sport where, stadium to stadium things are different. This is obviously an extreme example of that. But, man, you play the game where it is being played, and you have to adapt to that. That is your job. I think if every stadium was, 400 to center, 385 to the gaps, 335 down the lines with the same 8-foot padded blue wall, it would be a far less interesting game. And I love that we have stuff like this all around the major leagues.
Totally agree. Jesse, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 4:55 here on the West Coast. Thanks so much.
You got it, Sam.
All right, Jesse Agler joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. Again, first pitch coming up at 5:05 p.m. at Wrigley Field. Padres trying to snap this 3-game skid as they take on the Chicago Cubs in the midst of a 7-game road trip. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen. We'll take our first look at the Padres lineup today. A little bit later, I go one-on-one with today's starting pitcher, left-hander JP Sears. Much more to do on our pregame coverage as we keep it rolling from inside our San Diego studios on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 5:05 p.m. at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Game 2 of this 3-game series. A couple of southpaws going at it today. Left-hander JP Sears on the mound for the Padres. Left-hander Matthew Boyd on the mound for Chicago. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Visit EcoWaterSoCal.com or call 760-350-3338. Let's take a look at the Padres lineup today. Looks like this. Fernando Tatis Jr. at second base leading off. Samad Taylor in left field batting second. Manny Machado at third base batting third. Miguel Andujar, the DH, batting cleanup. Ty France at first base batting fifth. Jackson Merrill in center batting sixth. Xander Bogaerts at shortstop batting seventh. Jace Bowen getting a start in right field today batting eighth. And Freddie Fermin behind the dish and batting ninth. With all that in mind, let's go to Wrigley Field and hear from the Padres skipper.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres skipper Craig Stammen. Served up by Sinley Food. If you've had better chicken, you must be a rooster.
Jordan and JP did a great job in his last outing. What did you see different from him from last year, or what has he been working on? Anything that you can share that might make him more successful this time around?
Yeah, I think he's been a successful pitcher in the major leagues. So I think what we saw in the last game was what he's done for a lot of his career, and hopefully we get to see more of that. But that consistency of his pitches, shapes, location, all that stuff was really good last time out.
When you're in a stretch like this, I guess playing against a team that's also in the wild card race, do these games feel a little bit bigger? And how easy is it to kind of just take it day by day and, not worry about the big picture?
Yeah, I think, obviously the way the playoffs are set up with the wild card and how the tiebreakers are set up, all these games are very important. We want to play a team that we're going to be competing against all year. We've got a chance to play them one-on-one and, help ourselves in the standings. And then again, it's also June. And we got a lot of games to play, and all those games matter the same amount as this game. So, weighing those two at the same time. We understand our opponent. We played them in the playoffs last year. So a big game, a fun game to play at the end of June.
How much World Series right now having a little bit of depth once you with France or Andujar, and both have been playing pretty well recently.
Yeah, they've been great. Last night, a lot of big hits from both those guys. Got some offense going. 11 hits. It was a good night for our offense. We just only put up 2 runs, and I think that was just a result of us not doing the little things as far as base running goes. And we do a little bit better job of that, and we put up 4, 5, 6 runs in that game.
It seemed like it was a really solid approach yesterday in terms of taking advantage of the mistakes that Imanaga made with the splitty that were up in the zone. Fastballs that weren't quite as elevated. Some positive to be taken out of that in terms of the approach, even though there wasn't a big hit in a big moment.
Yeah, definitely some positives out of that. We just couldn't deliver the knockout punch, which has been the story of some of our losses is the inability to deliver that punch at the end or when we needed to with runners in scoring position. So, we got to keep working, keep getting better in those situational hitting opportunities and, maybe break a game like that a little bit more open.
That was Padres manager Craig Stammen earlier today inside the Padres dugout. We'll hear more from Craig on our post-game coverage coming up later on this evening. Sam Levitt back with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at Wrigley Field at 5:05 p.m. Let's quickly tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to step up their game? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not. Presented by ASAP Drain Guys and Plumbing, a division of Anderson Commercial, your full-service plumber serving San Diego County.
We look at a trio of guys in the hot category today. Fernando Tatis Jr. in the midst of now a 22-game on-base streak. If he reaches base today, it'll tie a career-best 23-game on-base streak. Tatis batting .312 with 10 extra base hits, 13 RBIs during that 22-game stretch. Ty France back in the lineup today against the lefty Matt Boyd. He is 5 for his last 9 with 2 home runs, 1 double, 5 RBIs in 13 plate appearances. And we also put Xander Bogaerts in the hot category. He's batting .314 with 5 RBIs in his last 11 games. The not category, Samad Taylor did have a base hit last night. However, he's just 1 for 14 in his last 4 games. Samad has cooled down a bit. He's batting second playing left field tonight against the Cubbies. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not. Let's take a look at some Major League headlines as we go around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Well, on the final day of June, the Miami Marlins looked to win 20 games in a single month for just the second time in franchise history as they take on the Colorado Rockies. The Marlins went 21-8 in May of 2012. And again, they're looking to win 20 games in a calendar month for just the second time ever. We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up a little bit later. Tell you more about that game against the Rockies. Earlier this morning, Rays young star Junior Caminero announced that he will participate in the Home Run Derby in Philadelphia coming up in the middle of July. Caminero today is in Kansas City with the Rays, looking to hit a home run in a fifth consecutive game. If he does that today in Kansas City, he would join this list of players to hit a home run in 5 straight games before their 23rd birthday. 3 players have ever done it before the age of 23. Ronald Acuna Jr. did it in 2018. Brian McCann in 2006 and Jack Clark in 1978. An update on Yankees left-hander Max Fried. He took another step in his recovery from a bone bruise in his left elbow through about 30 pitches in a 2-inning simulated game earlier today. Astros all-star shortstop Jeremy Pena is going back to the IL, this time with a mild left calf strain. And those Dodgers, they pushed Shohei Ohtani's next start back to Friday night when he'll take on the Padres at Dodger Stadium. Ohtani was originally scheduled to make his next start tomorrow in the Dodgers series finale against the A's in Sacramento, but Dave Roberts announcing earlier that Ohtani will instead pitch Friday against the Padres. Ohtani, a 1.58 ERA through 13 starts this season. And finally, you likely have heard about the devastation in Venezuela from the earthquakes there over the course of the past week or so. It's been really tough to see. Just a lot of devastation in Venezuela, unfortunately. Major League Baseball and the MLB Players Association today announcing a joint $1 million donation to aid in recovery from the devastating earthquakes. The money will be steered to the American Red Cross, helping the organization provide shelter, safe drinking water, healthcare, essential relief items, and mental health services for the country. And that is a look at some of the Major League headlines and certainly our thoughts with everybody in Venezuela. Obviously, Venezuela, a country with deep-rooted baseball influence. Just been awful to see all the tragedy going on there after those earthquakes. And good on Major League Baseball, the MLBPA, for, again, that $1 million donation to aid in recovery. When we come back, we'll talk about an injury update for you. We've got a very important guy for the Padres going on a rehab assignment beginning today. I also go one-on-one with left-hander JP Sears making the start today for the Padres at Wrigley Field. First pitch coming up at 5:05 on the Padres Radio Network. Padres baseball coming up here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch at 5:05 p.m. We send things out to Jesse and Tony live at Wrigley Field in just more than 20 minutes. Left-hander JP Sears on the mound for the Padres today. Left-hander Matthew Boyd on the mound for the Cubs. I go one-on-one with JP coming up in just a few minutes. We do have a very important Padre beginning a rehab assignment at AAA. Let's tell you more about it.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, Luis Campusano is beginning his rehab assignment at AAA El Paso tonight. Campusano in the El Paso Chihuahuas lineup today, batting second and doing the catching, so that's certainly a good step for Luis Campusano, who's rehabbing from that fractured toe. So good news there. Hopefully it won't be long until Luis Campusano rejoins the Padres. So that is significant news today. Of course, yesterday the Padres reinstating Jay Cronenworth from the IL. They also recalled Bradley Rodriguez from AA San Antonio. David Morgan went on the IL yesterday with left knee inflammation, and the Padres also optioning Will Wagner back to AAA. Cronenworth is not playing today's game. Padres, I would assume, sort of slow playing him back into the regular day-to-day lineup. Fernando Tatis Jr. at second base today. Jace Bowen getting the start in right field. But I'd assume, in all likelihood, Jay Cronenworth would be available off the bench in some capacity today. And that's a quick look at our injury report. We did tell you yesterday about the Cubs also putting Matt Shaw on the 10-day IL, and they also put Ethan Roberts, a reliever, on the IL. Kevin Alcantara, who's in their lineup today, was recalled from AAA, and Gavin Hollowell, who pitched last night in the Cubs win, also recalled from AAA. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, tell you what's going on around the majors on this Tuesday.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
Handful of games going on already. The White Sox lead the Orioles already 8-1 in the third in Baltimore. Phillies ahead of the Pirates 2-0 in Philadelphia in the fourth inning. Rangers and the Guardians tied at 2 in the fourth in Cleveland. Tigers lead the Yankees 4-1 in New York in the first inning. Mets and the Blue Jays in Toronto, they are scoreless in the second. Red Sox 1. Nationals 0 at Fenway in the second. Cardinals and the Braves in Atlanta, they are scoreless in the second. Games coming up still. Reds and the Brewers in Milwaukee at 4:40. Rays and the Royals in Kansas City at 4:40. Twins in Houston against the Astros at 5:10. Marlins in Denver, Colorado against the Rockies at 5:40. Angels and the Mariners in Seattle at 6:40. Dodgers in Sacramento against the A's at 6:40. And finally, Giants and the Diamondbacks at 6:40 in Arizona. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Tuesday. Well, JP Sears, very, very good for the Padres in his season debut for San Diego last week against Atlanta. 5 2/3 innings. He gave up 2 runs in that game. 5 hits allowed. He struck out 5, walked 2, and now Sears making his second start of the season in the major leagues. Of course, Sears was traded from the A's to the Padres along with Mason Miller at the trade deadline last summer. I caught up with JP Sears ahead of his start today at Wrigley. Sam Levitt here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game. And right now we're joined by Padres starting pitcher JP Sears. JP, the other night against the Braves, really, really nice outing, helping the Padres to a series sweep. It was also a day where the Padres were probably a little bit short in the bullpen, asking you not just for effectiveness, but I think also some length as well. What worked for you against the Braves the other night?
Yeah, I think I went in there with a really good game plan. I think that I felt from the very beginning of the game very comfortable with our game plan going in. Worked with Freddie really well. He called a great game. And, I think I just mixed my pitches really well. I think that, I saw early that my changeup and sweeper were moving pretty well. And so, really relied on those two in my fastball a lot. And, like you said, just trying to provide some depth, but also, some quality innings too.
You mentioned the changeup, the sweeper, the fastball. For you in that outing, was it a case of the fastball setting up the off-speed stuff or the other way around?
Yeah, I think it was just a good combination of using the outside part of the plate and going in when I needed to, and just trying to keep the guys off balance. I think that I rely heavily on my fastball at times, so teams can kind of center in on that, and so just really trying to mix it up the speeds. And it was great to see my sweeper move a good bit, and just throwing on the outside part of the plate and being able to get some guys to chase with the fastball is good.
JP, you mentioned the game plan. I mean, I would imagine doing what you did the other day, coming up pretty quickly, getting into the clubhouse, working with Freddie and the group of pitching coaches. What does that typically look like when you're coming up in a short amount of time, 24, 48 hours, and you got to get ready to face a major league team?
Yeah, for sure. I think that sometimes I kind of use that as an advantage. Makes you not overthink too much. I haven't really, I didn't really get to watch the games live or anything like that. I was watching them on TV. So, seeing different perspectives of it and just going in kind of with a neutral mind and just going out there and trying to compete, first start of the year in the big leagues, and can't really try and do too much with a good team out there. And, obviously the Braves have been playing great all year. So, just trying to do my job and also just, try and provide a little length.
JP, let's rewind a little bit, because you obviously were traded from the A's to the Padres last summer, end up making a handful of starts with the Padres down the stretch. Now that you're, about a year removed from the trade, and how do you reflect on the trade and sort of the new beginning with the Padres?
Yeah, I think that you ask anybody that's been traded in season, there's challenging parts of it, right? I obviously didn't throw the ball, exactly how I wanted to when I got over here last year. And I think that I think sometimes I've heard people say, sometimes it takes 9 months to a year to really get used to the system or get used to the guys or get used to, not doing too much. I think that the biggest thing here is that, last year I just, was trying to do too much as far as trying to get good results, right? It's a long game, every game, especially being a starting pitcher out there. You got to go out there and make a lot of good pitches. So my focus really this year and this last couple of days has really been like pitch by pitch, really just trying to focus on what I can control, not worry about the outcome, even though it matters a lot, just worrying about controlling that one pitch, that one at bat while I can. And I think that you ask a lot of starters that helps you get deeper in the game, helps you kind of simplify the game and not try too hard and like what you want to accomplish, just try and do what you can control.
Speaking of mindset, out of spring training, you were competing for a spot. You get optioned down to AAA to start the year. What was your mindset not making the club and having to go down to AAA, knowing that at some point you'd probably you'd be needed up here in some capacity?
Yeah, obviously, it's challenging at first. Not that I thought that I'm ever too good for any level. It's just, I do feel like I belong here and I feel like that I can compete at this level. So just like I said, not trying to worry too much about the results. So I obviously didn't have like amazing results this year in AAA. I feel like I, threw the ball not great at the beginning of the year. And then I kind of the last month and turned it around and just still been getting some bad luck here and there. So I reiterate what I said is like really is just about zoning in on what I need to focus on every day, and that's just my work and controlling the game and controlling that at bat. And I think that you can't worry about trying to get out of the inning with a runner on first base with one out. You got to get the next hitter out and then get the next hitter out, right? So doing a little too much of that early on this year, but really the last month or so, I feel like I've really been focusing on the right things.
We're joined by Padres pitcher JP Sears here on the Padres Radio Network. Finally, the next start for you will come on the road, coming off a really nice first start of the year in the major leagues. For you, how do you build off it now?
Yeah, I'm just trying to focus on what I can control today and, do my best to kind of prepare for whatever comes up next and, take it day by day and, make sure my body's feeling good and I'm recovering well. And, but yeah, I've been feeling great. So excited about whenever that time comes.
You mentioned recovery. Is that something that maybe we don't talk about enough? Not only the things you have to do on your start day, execution, preparation, all those things, but how important it is to simply recover well over the course of the next 4 days?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of, a snowball effect. You kind of build on your first day and then you build on your second day. And I think that over the time span of, 7 or 8 months in a full season, it starts to really add up in a good way. And hopefully that's what I've been able to focus on the last couple of years. And the reason why I've been able to stay healthy is just really, really take value in those day 2, day 3, day 4, preparing for the start. And it really makes me, feel better that, third month or fourth month when things can start to get slow about this time of the year for some guys' bodies. So, just really trying to do my best to prepare.
JP, really appreciate the conversation. Thank you for the time. Good luck with your next start, and we'll talk to you again down the road.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was today's starting pitcher, JP Sears, earlier inside the Padres clubhouse. We'll see how JP does against the Chicago Cubs today. Padres trying to snap a 3-game skid, trying to win the middle game of this 3-game series. First pitch coming up at 5:05 p.m. We send things out to Jesse and Tony in just a little bit more than 10 minutes. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Rock and Block Turf and Hardscapes. Beautiful artificial turf that stays green all year long. Trust and experience. The job isn't done until it's done right. See them at rockandblocklandscape.com.
Key number 1, and you heard Jesse allude to this a little bit earlier, rev the bats up. The Padres have scored just 7 runs in their last 3 games, and maybe no surprise, the Padres have dropped each of those 3 games. Part of the issue, Padres are not cashing in enough when they have opportunities. Padres just 4 for 27 with runners in scoring position in that 3-game span. So key number 1, get the bats going again. Got to cash in when you have those scoring opportunities. Key number 2, Sears against Bregman. Cubs third baseman Alex Bregman has really good career numbers against JP Sears. Bregman is 7 for 20 with 2 doubles and 2 home runs in his career against Sears. Bregman back in the Cubs lineup today, playing third base, batting Segman. Now, I combined it, second and Bregman. Segman. Batting second is what I meant to say. Bregman has had a rough month of June. He's batting just 195 this month and has only 1 home run. So don't let him start to get it going if you're JP Sears. That's key number 2. Key number 3, Manny Machado against Matthew Boyd. Machado had 3 hits and 2 doubles against Matthew Boyd back in late April in that start Boyd made at Petco Park. Manny has good career numbers against Boyd. He's 8 for 16 against him with 4 doubles and no home runs, but 4 doubles against Matthew Boyd. Again, 8 for 16, so a 500 average in his career against Matthew Boyd. Can Manny take advantage of that? Can the Padres take advantage of a guy that they hit earlier this season? We're going to find out, and that's a look at our keys to today's game. When we come back, we'll tell you about one other Padre that has to be a little bit more of a run producer for this offense to get it going. We'll also dive even deeper into today's starting pitching matchup. Couple of southpaws going at it. Left-hander JP Sears against left-hander Matthew Boyd. First pitch coming up at 5:05 p.m. on the Padres Radio Network. SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming up at 5:05 at Wrigley Field. We send things out to Jesse and Tony in under 7 minutes. Padres continuing their 7-game road trip. Padres also in the midst right now of 17 games in 17 days. Heading towards the All-Star break. Padres have lost 3 in a row, trying to right the ship in the Midwest here today as they take on the Chicago Cubs. Let's tell you what to watch for in the middle game of this 3-game set.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovements.com.
What to watch for in today's game? Can Jackson Merrill return to being a little bit more of a run producer? Jackson batting 6th in the Padres lineup here today. He'll face a tough left-hander in Matthew Boyd, but Jackson has just 1 RBI in his last 10 games. He is 31 on the season. Can Jackson be a little bit more of a run producer today and moving forward? We'll see, but would be nice to see Jackson, from an RBI standpoint, start to drive in a little bit more runs. Again, just 1 RBI in his last 10 games. Not trying to pick on Jackson at all, but read that today and said, you know what, would be nice for Jackson from an RBI perspective to get it going a little bit, contribute a little bit more from that RBI standpoint. We'll see if Jackson can do it today against the tough left-hander. Speaking of left-handers, Matthew Boyd against JP Sears, our starting pitching matchup. Let's dive in.
Let's break down how today's starters are shaping up with our starting pitching preview. Brought to you by Harrah's Resorts Southern California and the First Down Sports Bar in Funner, California. Don't just watch the match, experience the glory. Head to Funner for every World Cup match to enjoy stadium-level energy and amazing specials at the best sports bar in SoCal.
Left-hander Matthew Boyd on the mound for the Cubs today, 35 years old. He's 2-1 with a 5.02 ERA in 6 starts this season, 28 2/3 innings. Boyd missed most of the last 2 months after needing surgery to repair a torn meniscus in his left knee. He returned last week to face the Mets. He went 4 2/3 scoreless innings, gave up 4 hits, walked 4 on 76 pitches. Boyd faced the Padres in late April in San Diego, and the Padres hit him. They got Boyd for 5 runs on 8 hits in just 4 innings. Manny Machado had 3 hits against Boyd in that game. In 3 starts against the Padres last season, including game 1 of the wild card series, Boyd gave up 3 runs in 15 2/3 innings. That was an ERA of 1.72. So the Padres much better against Boyd in that first start of the year back in San Diego. We'll see if they can do it again against Boyd here today. Left-hander JP Sears on the mound for the Padres, 30 years old. His first start in the majors this season. Last week against Atlanta, he was really, really solid. 5 2/3 innings, 2 earned runs given up, 5 strikeouts, walked 2, allowed 5 hits. And believe it or not, JP Sears has never faced the Cubs in his career. We'll do that today for the first time. We'll pitch at Wrigley Field for the first time today. And that's a look at our pitching matchup. JP Sears for San Diego and Matthew Boyd on the mound for Chicago. Let's set the table one more time for you. Padres come in 43-40. The Cubs at 47-38. Padres have dropped 3 in a row. They're in the midst of a 7-game road trip to Chicago and LA. Padres entered today 1 game out of the National League's final wild card spot. Cubs right now sitting tied for the NL's top wild card spot. And the Padres trying to play a little bit better against the Cubbies beginning today. Padres lost 2 out of 3 to the Cubs in San Diego earlier this year, losing the series opener in Chicago last night as well. When we come back, we send things out to Jesse and Tony live at Wrigley Field. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. Enjoy the game, everybody.